to the Grind to Growth to Greatness podcast. The best and brightest entrepreneurs, CEOs, creators, athletes. We'll talk to them all, and we'll get the good, the bad, and the ugly on how they made it. Decoding the secrets of success. Grind to Growth to Greatness podcast. Unveiling the paths to success. And now your host, Terry Barr.
So here we are again, Grind to Growth to Greatness. We have a fantastic guest. She is a local businesswoman here in central Pennsylvania. We've had a couple of those right in a row, and very excited to introduce this young lady to you. About a year and a half ago, I was standing in a coffee shop here in town over at Cornerstone Coffee House, and you'll hear from the owner, Sue Para, because she was on my podcast as well. But I was standing in this coffee shop waiting for my coffee next to this young lady, and we began to talk, and she introduced me to her niece and what she did for a living, which was interesting. And so we spent about, 5 or 10 minutes chatting, and the rest is history. We'll get into that a little bit. But I want to introduce you to Kristen Knovinger of K. Knovinger Jewelry. She's right here in the West Shore Plaza.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, she is. She is the owner of K. Knovinger, obviously. She's been around here for a while. She's had a very interesting story. I'm not sure how she got from where she intended to go to where she's at, but she's very successful. And I have actually used her in my life. I got married about a year and a half ago and was really happy to come here to buy my wife's engagement ring and her band. So I've used Kristen. I couldn't be happier. My wife couldn't be happier. So introduce Kristen Knovinger. Welcome into the show. Thanks for taking time. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
She agreed to do this one day after Valentine's. So she's over there biting her fingernails. She's like, I got to get back to work. There's so much to do, but she took time. But thanks for being here. So tell me a little bit about, again, on this show, what we try to do is we try to look at folks who have interesting stories, successful stories in their own right. And obviously we'll get to your jewelry store, but we really want to hear about the journey. A young woman from this area goes away to college, completely different motivation, and ends up kind of stumbling into this business. So we want to hear about how that happened. Tell me a little bit about your youth. Tell me how you grew up. Tell me about mom and dad. She's got 3 sisters. Alessandro, Jamie, and Tracy. Tell me a little bit about them.
A family. 3 sisters. I was the second oldest. And our parents raised us, I think we say pretty well, because we all have a drive to help other people, a drive to succeed in life. Work hard and play. But if you fall, get back up again. There's lots of times where we didn't get that gold medal. So you wanted to keep fighting to get that gold medal. I don't know, just a lot of love in our family. Even through the hardships, a lot of love.
Yeah.
So my dad's in construction.
Okay.
And I saw his models growing up, like our house model, just different things that he was working on. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Where did you grow up? Tell me about where you grew up.
East Shore, Fisher Creek Valley area.
Oh, yeah, beautiful area.
Very pretty. But where we grew up, there's nothing around us. So my cousins lived a house up. Mm-hmm. And we had the golf course behind us. So if you wanted to play, you were playing with your cousins, you were playing in the dirt, and that was it. You wanted to go to the mall, mom's like, nope.
Not today.
Not today.
How about
and
that?
You couldn't walk, you couldn't get a taxi, you couldn't get an Uber, because that was not around back then.
Yeah. So you were the kind of girl that you took what you had and you went and found a way to play. And
you found a way to play. If you, had to do some things that weren't allowed, you did them gracefully. But so that was growing up. A lot of love, a lot of family. And even though there was hardships and, things don't always work out, you drive. You drive for, okay, I want to be better. I want to be that person. So
yeah. Was there something in your life at that age that was a particular heartache or a particular hardship that kind of molded you over the time?
I didn't know it at the time. We're growing up. You think you're invincible, right?
Yeah.
So you don't find those things out till you're older in life and you reflect. But 21 Jump Street, right? That was a TV show back in the day. Right. So I wanted to be that narcotic officer that would go into schools and bust the kids.
Wow.
So, but that didn't work out.
It didn't work out, huh?
So I found jewelry.
You found jewelry. Now, I read a little bit about you. Obviously, I read up on everybody that I interview and said that you went to Central Michigan. I guess that was correct. Is it Central
Correct.
Michigan?
Yep, CMU.
Yeah, CMU. You went out there. You were dreaming of that juvenile correction.
I was thinking,
Yeah, this is where I'm going.
it was far away from home.
Yeah. Why so far?
Because I wanted to get away from Dodge. So you're a kid, you want to explore.
Right.
So I wanted to go someplace away.
Yeah.
It was 10 hours. I'm like, I'm not going to see my parents. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
But I walked on to their field hockey team and I ended up playing 5 years there. And I saw my parents more in college than I probably did when I was at home.
Amazing. That must have been somewhat of a healing time, that relationship.
It was a good, and my coach back then, she was the best coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you were late, you were running. Mm-hmm. If you did back grades, you were in study hall. So she was that parent that wasn't the parent. And she was probably second role model that really taught me to be better than who I thought I could be.
Yeah. Be responsible, be better than you, those kinds of things.
Then I can do it.
So at what point in your college career did you kind of stumbled into this class? You had an advisor, a teacher, somebody said, hey, you need one more credit, something like that. Why don't you do something over here? And you decided to take the jewelry class.
It was freshman year. I had to take an elective and there was one left. It was metalsmithing and jewelry. And the professor, a year into it, he's like, you're good. You just take this class again. And that was kind of started my path.
That was the start, huh? Mm-hmm. It's funny. I went to a little high school in Kentland, Indiana, not too far from Michigan, actually, because we visited my grandparents in Michigan. They were 4 hours away. So I was right out there. They were in Lapeer, Flint, Michigan.
Okay,
right
Flint. Yeah.
But I went to a little high school. We had 3 or 4 different towns that fed into that school. And my class had like 70 people in the, as a senior high school. But one of their electives was jewelry making. It was a jewelry class. Yeah. So, I remember taking that. It was interesting to me. We went in and we had the old spinning, whatever it was called. I can't remember what it was called, but we would do the wax models, and then we would pour the liquid.
Glass wax casting.
Yeah, absolutely. Casting. We'd hide under the table because, it was very exciting. I still have some of those pieces of jewelry. So I have a little bit of an understanding. But did you fall in love with it after that first class? Or
I loved it. I mean, It was carving the wax. So what you just said, that's what 5 years of doing that. I don't know. He was a good professor where he taught you how to critique. And this is something I still remember. Right. When you critique something or critique somebody else's work, you always start with the negative but come back with the positive. And we do that here. I mean, that's life, right? You don't want to just beat somebody up, bam, bam, bam. You want to say, okay, this is good. Could be better. And then this is keep focusing. So that I use that. I mean, that was how many years ago? 1990, a long time ago.
Yeah. It's an everyday remembering. That's a kind of a guide for you.
And there's a lot of things that you take along the way. Like you might not like this teacher or this person, but they might have said one good thing in life. Right. And you take that with you. So it's just like a book. You can read a book, but if there's one good thing, you can take out of that book. Right.
Now, did your sisters go to school? Did anybody follow you out there?
No, it was too far away. My oldest sister stayed close to home. And now she's in Washington State. My 2 youngest sisters went to Pittsburgh, so pretty close to home.
You get a chance to see them often?
I see my 2 youngest ones pretty close because we live in the same area. And my oldest sister twice a year, which is tough.
It sounds like you were kind of the firecracker of the family that... I don't know if that's a proper term. I don't know you that well.
I started the trouble, and then my youngest sister ended the trouble. Yeah. So, but we're sisters, and we were close in age. Yeah. So there was a lot of fighting growing up. A lot of I hate you, but as we grow older, you get past that.
Yeah, I think that's probably true with most kids. Yeah. They argue. My 2 boys argued and fight and rolled around, but they're best friends. So you go through Central Michigan, you played field hockey, all those stuff, I'm assuming all through school?
All through school, I played. I started for the 4 years. So. And
then what did you come out of college with? What sort of degree did you come out with?
A BFA, so a Bachelor's of Fine Art in 3 dimension, and then a small business minor.
Wow. So you had a double major, not double, but two different. And then after that, your first job, you went right from Central Michigan to NYC.
Nope, not even.
Oh, you didn't?
I might have forgotten this part. So after school, I was like, how am I going to make money?
Sure.
They didn't teach you this back then. Right. So I went to the Gemological Institute of America.
Oh, is that in California?
Yeah, so I worked a year for my dad in construction. traveled to Europe, backpacked by myself for 2 months, and then went to GIA. And that was a year and a half of different studies, diamonds, color stones, jewelry making, wax carving. But they had different groups. So you could pick just diamonds, you could pick just color stones. But I left there with a graduate jeweler gemologist with design and wax.
Wow. Was that an addition to your passion? Did that set your passion in stone?
Yeah, that really owned the light on how jewelry is made, what gemstones are gemstones, what's diamonds, like how you can really tell one from the next. You could go to a jewelry making class and they could teach you how to do the basics of how to make jewelry, but GIA really teaches you diamonds, color stones, how to take what's in your head and put it onto paper. So the first class in GIA was jewelry design. And I still use those skills to this day.
Yeah.
And that teacher, again, another role model, he was good and he helped me enter contests, which I was fortunate to win. And that kind of sent my design skills into par.
I imagine that really drove your confidence too.
Drove the confidence and really took what I saw in my head and I could put onto paper. Yeah. So that was cool.
Your initial, after you got out of school and then you went backpacking for 2 months. That must have been kind of a, hey, find myself moment. And then let me get this in before I get into life kind of. Is that kind of how it was?
It was. And all the stuff that you see and you read. I mean, there's so many art history classes. I probably could have been like an art history minor too. Wow. But then to go to Europe and see all that history, the sculpture, I still use that in my designs today, which is really cool.
You know, it's funny. One of my last podcasts was a lady that has a merino wool farm.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you about that, but she went to Europe and a lot of her experiences in Europe going to the different museums and still carry over. She uses like some things from Henri Matisse and another, I think Agnes Miller was her name, another artist there. She actually puts that in. So it's interesting you say that had a real guiding effect on your work even today.
It's amazing. I mean, history doesn't die, right? So if you take what's your history and you keep putting it into your work, I just think it makes you stronger.
Obviously, it's hard to be a businesswoman or a businessman and an artist all at one time. A lot of people that have a passion for something, they say, you know what, I need to go make money on this. So then they turn it into a business and they fail because the business is hard. The business side's hard. The designing part of what you do, is that the thing that you enjoy the most? Or I know you have a great culture here. If you've ever been to Knovinger, all the girls here are just so kind and so helpful and very qualified. But tell me about that. What gets you out of bed in the morning?
I love what I do. I mean, It's stressful, but I'm passionate about design. Like you said, my niche is taking customers' pieces and transforming them into something that they'll wear for another 20 years, that they'll pass down to their kids. So that's one thing that I love doing. And then designing my own pieces, which I'll put on the back burner and do the customers' pieces before. But designing is what I truly love. Not enough time in the day or the week to design because of everything else, but that's where I'm like, because there's a story. Yeah. And you meet with the customer, like we did a piece we gave to the customer yesterday, and her husband had passed away. So she had his fingerprint and she wanted a pendant. So we took apart a Claudia ring that her late daughter had. Mm-hmm. We took apart a ring that her husband gave her. And we put it all into a pendant, and there's memories there and there's stories. Mm-hmm. And to see her eyes light up and see her like, wow, this is special. That's what I love doing. So.
Yeah. Well, you did something like that for me. I know I got married about 1.5 years ago, like I said, and I didn't realize that you were supposed to buy a wedding gift. So you're supposed to buy a wedding gift for your wife, and I thought, well, I bought her 2 rings and a wedding and a trip, and Kristen's like, no, it's kind of you should buy her a wedding gift. So we went looking for bracelets, and I had the idea of she calls me something, like I guess a little pet name, but she calls me her person of life, and it's a funny story altogether, and I won't get into it. But so I wrote down my person of life in my own handwriting, and Kristen somehow, I don't know how she did it, but she had that etched into a bracelet in my handwriting. So she's very creative that way, and I've seen some of her pieces. So that's the kind of thing she does here, and she even though she doesn't like when I walk in the door, she takes time to talk to me. I came in yesterday to ask her a couple questions, and she was like, I don't have time. It's Valentine's Day. So, but she's very creative, very, very focused on customer service. But so your passion for designing is there. How do you balance your business, your designing, your personal life?
That's a great question.
Because I know as a business person, I work all the time, and maybe I work more than I should. And more, I should have more balance in my life. How do you balance your life?
So the store will be 12 years here in May, and I'm still trying to figure out how to balance my life.
Yeah.
Honestly, you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I'm not perfect at, but the customers come. I mean, honestly, if I can have a Sunday off, I'm happy. And then I'll work Monday through Saturday. Lately, it's a lot, but you enjoy these moments and you do what you have to do to have a successful business. Mm-hmm. I work hard. When I play hard too, but a vacation every couple months helps.
You know, since COVID, obviously we kind of come out the other end of COVID. You know, what did you do during COVID to adjust or pivot in your business? Were you able to do that? Was it rough like everybody else? Or, you know, what did you do to pivot during that period of time?
So I'm always about this thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And I'm a big community supporter. What can we do to help those around us? So my jeweler and I, we worked the whole time. My marketing girl and I, we had contests galore. We gave things out. No buying, but we gave things out. College graduates, people getting married, we gave them things. Mm. We had people tell stories. We would give them things for stories. So we tried to really get community involved. So that way they have something to look forward to. And they weren't just sitting at home being depressed. Engagement rings, we still did it. We did Zoom, FaceTime. I mean, if somebody wants something bad enough, we'll find a way.
Figure out a way.
I talked to my suppliers. I found those that were open. And we worked really well on, okay, well, we have this wax. How do we adjust it? I was taught in New York, so I worked in New York City too. And that designer taught me when there's hardships, you find a way. We found ways. I mean, we were busy and we made things happen. We probably caught up on all the repair work during COVID, which was nice. So when we came back, we were caught up and then we just got slammed again.
So let's go back to right as you got out of gemological school, then you get a job in New York City. And that didn't go as well as you had hoped. Tell me about that.
So I moved to New York City a week before 9/11. And the first week was working as a designer for a company that sold Midwest jewelry. And I was like, this is not my style.
Yeah, when you told me that, I was like, let me see. You went to New York City to design awful. For the Midwest.
It was awful. It was like, we're jumping back a couple of years.
Yeah.
But when I was there, I had an interview beforehand for a designer who was really cool. And I called my mom on the payphones because there's no cell phones. Right. So she's like, this designer called you. She's like, go see her during a lunch break. So I went and saw her during a lunch break. And I started with her the following week.
Now, was that was the...
Mimi So
on 47th Street.
First lady Asian designer on 47th Street.
And that's kind of like, that's where it happens. 47th is like, that's the...
That was Jewelers Row. Yeah, back in the day, that was Jewelers Row.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's still Jewelers Row in a lot of ways. I follow some jewelers online that are big into Instagram and watches and jewelry and all that stuff. So 47 seems that's
it was huge. I mean, we did things. So it was a day before 9/11, but during 9/11, it was crazy. Yeah. But one thing that she stressed is we were going to stay busy. We're going to give our jewelers work, and we're going to stay open. So we found things, we designed things, we made things.
That must have given you confidence.
It was cool because, again, second day on the job, and this tragedy happens, and she pulls together. And meanwhile, my family's like, you need to move back home. I was like, no, I love this place. Yeah. Naive again, but the best experience working for her. A couple of things. I mean, A, don't quit, and B, think outside the box. What can we do? How can we make this happen? So a lot of things that we do is we think outside the box. We're not your typical jewelry store. We'll do things that most people won't touch. And I'm like, well, we can do this or we can do it this way. So again, we'll think outside the box. Our prices are not crazy, but you'll have an amazing product in the end.
Right. So do you still have a relationship with Mimi So?
If I see her, I definitely have a conversation with her.
And how long were you with her?
4.5 years.
Well, that's a long time.
It was hardcore.
That's a long time. Yeah. So you're in New York City for, I guess, almost 5 years? Is that right?
Yeah.
And then what happened after that?
I moved home. My sister had 2 daughters at this time, so I wanted to be closer to them. Okay. Moved home and had just started doing my own thing out of my dad's office. So my dad had an office building, and I rented a room from him, and just would go to people's homes and do custom design.
So what kind of mindset were you in? You're in New York City, you're doing what you love, you're with a great designer. What drove you out of New York City, and what was your mindset coming back saying, okay, now if I'm going to do this, I need to do it the way I want to do it? I mean, tell me how you got from New York City to your dad's office.
So, funny story. I had a car in New York City that was stolen. So I get $10,000 from the insurance company, and that's what I started my business with.
How about that?
Isn't that great? $10,000.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But you learn through all the hardships. Okay, well, I worked my butt off. I know I can work hard again. And I want to just keep doing designing and for the customers. So I had a roundtable discussion with my core family, group of friends. Mm-hmm. This is, what I'm thinking, retail versus wholesale. And they were like, wholesale, less work, less hours. I'm not good at selling my own pieces. Mm. I can sell somebody else's work so much quicker than selling mine.
Why is that? Is that a confidence thing or uncertainty that somebody's going to like you?
A lot of artists don't like to toot their own horn. So I'm not one that will say I'm great, that will say you need to buy my pieces because they're better than those pieces. I almost like the art to talk for or the designs to talk for the designs.
Well, I think that's true. At least for me, it is. And I'm kind of a right brain guy with a left brain artistic feel sometimes. And I walk through, whether it's an art gallery or even your jewelry store or any kind of art at all, the shops down at the shore, and it has to hit me. It has to say, that's me, or that's the person that I want to buy this for. Yeah. And you have to sometimes get through a lot to get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I understand that feeling that you have as far as it's special to you, but somebody else has got to walk up and say, that's it. That's a beast to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
This episode of Grind to Growth to Greatness is brought to you by Terry Barr, Distinctive Real Estate. Advising families across Pennsylvania and Northern Virginia for over 15 years. Visit the website at terrybarrealestate.com.
So are you doing a lot of designing now, creating now, or are you really kind of trying to keep your head above water? I know you're busier in a hornet's nest, so...
We are. So May's our anniversary, and we usually knock out some designs for the anniversary and for Christmas. So Tucson was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Tucson's the beginning of February every year, and it's the largest gem show in the world.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
And yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Did you have fun there? Do you usually have fun there, or are you there to work?
I'm there to work, completely haul ass and get stuff done. But for the day and a half, 2 days I was there, it was great. So a lot of stones came home with me, and now it's just coming up with ideas for them. Some of them I know what I want to do. It's just putting down on paper and making them work.
I imagine that at some level, even a stone does that to you. You look at a stone and go, oh, yeah, I love that piece there. And
if you buy the stone because this stone is amazing, it talks to you, you'll come up with a cool design.
Yeah. All right. So you spend some time doing that, signing out of your dad's office. How long were you there? Dad's office
I opened this in 2012, but in between my dad's office, I did custom design for 2 other retailers in the area.
Okay.
And that kind of helped build my name. And that was key to opening this store.
So one of those that you're talking about was Higashi.
Correct.
Okay. And I know Susan Photo. I used to shop there an awful lot. And so she's actually the one that turned me on to you, which is interesting because I met Kristen in this coffee shop, and I was getting ready to buy a diamond for my wife. Susan said, hey, you need to see this woman. I'm like, okay. Needless to say, I'd already met you and didn't know I met you. So then I walked in your store and I'm like, oh, that's her.
And we were so busy that I couldn't even, I waved at you. But
I was like, what in the world's going on here? So it's a small world. But so you spent some time in your dad's office. You did some work with other stores, I guess, retailers. And then eventually you went to work for Susan for a little bit. And that was a couple years. Were you there for a couple years?
I was there for 2.5 years.
2.5 years. All right. So you're there for 2.5 years. And at some point you said, I need to do this myself.
Something like that.
So I guess the question is, though, you had been through so much related, a great education in California, education in New York City, education home, worked for a designer. You must have been pretty confident going into, I mean, anytime you open a business, it's nerve-wracking, obviously.
But scary as anything.
Yeah, for sure. But you must have been confident, like, I can do this. Who were the people in your life at that moment that you made that decision? We'll talk about how you made it some other time, but who are the people that you said, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to go talk to this person that I trust? And you kind of said a round table of people, but who were those people? What kind of advice did they give you?
So, of course, my dad, my mom, probably my sister, Jamie. It was Jamie's husband, Mark, good friend of mine that was a commercial realtor. There might be some other people, but those were the key ones that we just went around and they asked questions. I'm like, I want to do a store. Again, a little bit naive. I did work retail, but I was never a salesperson. I always said I'm not a salesperson. I'm more the back end. But I like talking to customers.
I think that's changed, though. I mean, every time you talk to me, I buy something, and I'm like.
But I'm not pushy.
No.
None of us are pushy. We're very honest in here, and it's all about you. And I'll tell people that it's like, even when I do a custom design, it's not about me. It's about you.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I love about everybody in here. I mean, obviously they have jobs; they're all in sales, but I come in, are you looking for something? I don't think so. Well, let me know if you are or whatever. And I don't feel pushed into it. But, I think every time I've been in here, something catches my eye, and I never buy for myself, obviously, but I enjoy coming in. There's a lot of different variety here. Mm-hmm. So you can spend $100 or you can spend well over $100. But so you spent some time with family, some friends, some mentors, and I can't imagine opening a jewelry store as an inexpensive venture. Did you have people invest in you? Were you able to go to a lender? I was able.
So there was only one bank that would give me an SBA loan. Okay. And I stood with that bank for years. Yeah. But I was fortunate to receive the SBA loan.
Yeah.
They were awesome. Things changed. A little bit of communication changed a lot as the years went on, but they were a godsend to me, and I was grateful.
Yeah, that's great. I've run into that a couple times with a couple of the interviews, and they've, small business often has hurdles that, you've got to get over. And especially with, if you want to call yourself a minority, women have sometimes more hurdles than men. So it's an interesting story that the M&T stepped up to.
They did step up. And I mean, there was a lot of people that said no, but that's one thing. Don't give up. Yeah. Just keep going, knocking on other people's doors. And the SBA offers some great workshops. They'll help you with your business plan. They'll help you with your financials. They will help you along the way. So if you don't know what to do, there's people there that could guide you. And I use that. That stepping stone. Mm-hmm. So again, if you're not sure, there's people out there that will guide you along.
So how was day one?
Day one was great. It was amazing. I had 2 salespeople, and talk about me being frugal and not knowing just being afraid.
Yeah.
One salesperson would come in, and then the other one would leave. Yeah. So we didn't overlap too much, and they worked like that for probably a year and a half. And then you keep growing, and you keep transitioning along the way. So.
At what point in your career, you've been here 12 years, at what point did you wake up and go, I think I'm successful? Like, I think I've made it over the hump. A lot of small business, they don't make it over a 3 to 5 year period.
That's what they said.
Yeah. And so thanks for that advice going into day one, right? So at what point did you wake up and go, yeah, you know what? I got all the equipment I need. I got great people. I got a great culture. I got customers. I feel like I've made it. When was that?
I still don't say that. I mean, every day we have to be better than yesterday. When the 3 years, they said that you're alive still. I'm like, okay, that's great. And then 5 years, I'm like, I thought it was 3 years. So the fact that we made 5 years, the fact that we made it through COVID, those are all strong suits to say, we have something. We have an amazing team. I mean, I would not be here if I didn't have my team, if I didn't have my jewelers. There's no I in this. It's all of us. Mm-hmm. And I'm fortunate. I have an amazing foundation here.
Yeah. And you've said that. I mean, this is obviously an interview. It'll go online and everybody can hear it. But those are the things that you've said to me beforehand. Before I even had this conversation. amazing people here. I wouldn't be doing this without them. So I know the culture because I've been in here. I've seen the girls in here and the dogs, and it's very family friendly. It's a jewelry store. It's not a whole lot of flair, but everything's beautiful. Tell me about your culture. Tell me what you try to promote here. What's your vision for the culture that you carry in here?
Along with service, I mean, service is the top number one thing that is important. Quality, I mean, we're just us. And that's important. We're family. Mm-hmm. We want the people coming in to be treated like they're our family. Mm-hmm. So a lot of love, a lot of memories.
You are in the memory business. Yeah. You really are. That is an interesting way to look at it for sure. Because every time you look at your hand, if you have a ring on it, you know where that ring came from, you know what it means, you know what a necklace means, earrings, all those kinds of things. So you're kind of in the memory business. And I think that's interesting. Was there a time that you felt like the name of our podcast is Grind to Growth to Greatness? So, you know, your grind started out in college. I mean, you were trying to find your way. You're putting the education in. You're going to New York City. You're failing the one and moving to the other. And where did you feel like that grind turned into, say, hey, I think I'm growing here. I'm growing in my education. I'm growing in my knowledge. I'm growing. And then when did you feel like everything kind of tipped over and I know this business now? I understand it. I mean,
do we ever understand it? I mean, we're always growing. We're always reading.
Should be, for sure.
But I think once we expanded the first time, I was like, okay, we got this. I think I know and I never know. I'm never 100%. I mean, sometimes I am.
Well, you're a humble person. I get humble. that.
But we're doing something right. Yeah. We have a good customer service. We have a lot of people talk about us and refer to their friends. And that to me is huge. If we weren't doing something right, we wouldn't do it. Most of the customers are referrals.
That's the truth.
That's huge for us. We stand behind our work, and I think our customers know that.
What does that mean, stand behind your work?
If you're not happy with something, we fix it. I mean, you're not walking out of here with something that I don't want you to bitch about and be like, well, it's not fitting right or it's
not what I want. Yeah. And I'm not going back.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I want you to come back. It's, if you're not wearing it, that's not why we made it, or that's not why we fixed it. So ring sizing is the hardest things to do because your fingers change. If you have wine or salt the day before and you come in to have your finger size, it might be different from the next time. So sometimes it might take us 2 or 3 times, but we're not charging you those 2 or 3 times. Right. We stand behind our work. Tightening stones, always cleaning and checking jewelry. But again, we're a small company. My name's on the wall.
Right.
So that's huge. And again, like you said, I'm humble. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to tell you something you don't want, just to tell you it. So.
Yeah. Have you had any big fails in your life?
Yeah.
That's the question I ask everybody. Everybody's had it.
Big fail, a $45,000 big fail.
Yeah.
I trusted a friend that I made his first engagement ring for. Mm-hmm. He wanted a second engagement ring. Big fail. Mm-hmm. Wrote a bad check. So I'll tell you his name offline. But
you don't need to, but
yeah.
That sounds like that.
So that was a big fail. Yeah. It was a learning lesson.
Yeah. What did you learn? What was the takeaway? Obviously the takeaway is don't trust your friends or don't trust or whatever, but there's got to be
listen to your gut feeling.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen to your gut. My gut was saying something's not right. Yeah. Listen to your gut.
Did you ever get paid?
His parents bailed him out.
How about that? Well,
still $5,000 shy. Yeah, again, don't forget, but his parents bailed him out.
How about that? That's interesting. Yeah, big fails are certainly something that we like to talk about here because there's always a takeaway.
If you fail, you figure it out. What did you do wrong? How do you do it better? I mean, we're not perfect. No one's perfect. So what can you do to make yourself better?
Yeah. I ask this from everybody. Sometimes I ask it up front. Sometimes I ask it at the end. If you had to boil it down to one thing, what is your why? Why do you do this? And I know there's the obvious. I like to serve people. But is there a why behind Kristen Knovinger, the reason you do this?
I love what I do. That's why. I honestly love designing jewelry and then making people happy. And again, I don't like to toot my own horn, but I'm good at designing. Yeah. And that passion, that being different, that's my why. I'm different from those around me. And I have a good eye for it. So
doesn't seem to be a lot of people in your business anymore. It seems like a lot of, hey, have you gone to Jared kind of places that are pretty retail, pretty.
People will say they're a custom designer. and that they're good at doing it. And they probably are good at doing it. But if you truly want something unique that nobody else has, I'm out there. I'll pull things left and right that nobody's seen before.
I think the difference I see in between you and some of that, some of the, call them the chains, if you will, is I see that your education, your life experience is so much different than a lot of people on a level like this. And I don't know if that's true, but it seems to be that you just have a lot more going for you than, and you go to Europe on top of it and you add that to it. And do you do any of that type of studying, or what do you do in your free time that helps you perform or do you have any free time?
I don't know.
Every time I talk to you, you're like, you don't have any free time.
This Monday was my first free time in 3 weeks. So
yeah.
I love traveling. So that's...
Where do you like to travel?
Oh, anywhere with warm water and blue water.
Yeah.
But any place with good architecture. New York City, I love architecture. Any place that has old history.
What's your favorite place in New York City?
Get me away from all the touristy people. Yeah. Lower East Side, Lower West Side, Upper.
Do you go back to 47th ever?
Yes, I was just there 2 weeks ago.
And you go back there for business, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you read it all? Do you have a favorite book?
I do.
What you reading now?
So I have a couple books I'm reading. The Go-Giver was one I just read.
Yeah, I got that one. And then
I have one that says The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. So I want to read that one next. Yeah. But Lucy Score is one of my favorite authors. I'm going to give her a shout out because she's also local and she's sweetheart.
Yeah. What kind of stuff does she write?
Love novels, love books.
All right.
But super cool author that we made a piece for. So.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, nice connection.
A really cool connection. But always learning, always reading books on how to make us better, how to make me better.
Yeah.
Because I can be better.
So. That's interesting. Are you a Hallmark girl? Do you like Hallmark movies? Do you do those kind of things?
Christmas time, anything to get my mind off.
The daily grind?
Yeah, to make me just go numb for a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, put a Hallmark TV show on.
Yeah.
I don't have to think. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. But they're selling love, and that's what we do all year round, sell love.
You might get some ideas on there, right?
No, because they're all like stationed and blah, blah, blah.
It's the truth.
Winter Wonderland and blah.
So. I know. Well, we had a Winter Wonderland this week, but well, listen, I know you're busy. I was so excited that you said you wanted to do this for me. I want to make sure I give a shout out to you and your website. It's knovingerjewelry.com, knovingerjewelry.com. But come in and see Kristen. I think I will promise you that you'll enjoy her and her staff and what she has. She's got beautiful stuff. And if she doesn't have what you want, obviously she can design it and make it. So thank you for being here, Kristen. I appreciate you so much for coming in. Actually, we're at your place. I failed to mention we're in the diamond room, and I'm fairly certain there's no diamonds in here, but that's the room we're in. And it's been nice to get to know you over the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping me out with my wife's rings.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for doing this interview. I appreciate that, letting people getting to me a little bit better than from just the store. Yeah,
well, we appreciate you sitting and telling your story, and you can put this online and people can hear it themselves, so that'd be good.
As long as I don't have to listen, we're all good.
Well, thanks again. All right, so thanks for being here on the Grind to Growth to Greatness podcast with Kristen Knovinger from K. Knovinger Jewelry. Come and see her. And we have a great guest next week. Tune in next week to Grind to Growth to Greatness, and you'll have another great guest to listen to. So thanks for coming in. Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Grind to Growth to Greatness podcast. Our passion is to talk to the brightest entrepreneurs, CEOs, creators, athletes, anyone who's made it, and dive into their struggles, their successes, and their secrets. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Grind to Growth to Greatness. See you next time.